What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd episode of the Control Freak Podcast. I am Alex Blackard, or at LessAlex on Twitter. Make sure to follow me there. We are always sponsored by Team SolitaryPro and by our lovely patrons, which we got a bunch this week, so I definitely appreciate. Shout out to Hey Pharaoh, Jesse Morales, Justin Pearson, Maxu Permatilt, and Nick Sobchak. Appreciate it. And if you too would like to help the content and help support the content, head on over to my Patreon, which will be in the link below, and consider becoming a patron. We're about to the next goal. We just hit the first one, so that's awesome. Thank you to the patrons, and thank you to all the viewers and listeners. Today I am joined by none other than Francesco Neo Amati. Francesco, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again. Almost the third now.
Absolutely, Francesco. This is the Neo Revelations episode.
Yes, and then there's a Matrix 4, so I'll be back.
There's gotta be another one, right? As all of you know, or probably know, Francesco is a sponsored player for Team Solitary. He is also a writer for Card Knock Life and a Spikes Academy coach, just to name a few things. Yeah, we have a lot to get into, and the listeners know I don't like to waste too much time before I get into the content. So, are you ready, my friend?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
All right. So, we just had SCG Atlanta, and oh boy, was there a lot of Oko. And I mean a lot, like 5 of the top 8 decks had Oko in it.
Yeah.
So that brings me to our first topic. Modern Control is in flux right now because of all the Oko and Titan decks. What does that mean for Blue-Eye Control?
The first thing I did was look at that's the top decks, and I'm like, where is Azorius?
Right.
Does Azorius?
Where's Hallowed Fountain?
Right. Where's Hallowed Fountain?
They destroyed Hallowed Fountain.
Colonnade. Yeah. Aside from the Stoneblade list, and I think there was a Bant Stoneblade, a Terminus build, and Azorius Stoneblade is the only ones I think I saw.
Yeah.
So I think that the rise of Oko, the strengthening of Urza, as if that deck needed to be any stronger.
It's playing Cryptic Command now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just showing off now.
Yeah.
It's like remember the Celestial Colonies playing this card? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's become an Urza dominated format, really. I mean, the card's powerful, but it not only is it powerful, but it's also gained Oko now. And I don't know if really banning both is the answer. I don't.
That would be quite a.
But it's been the talk. It's been the trending talk on social media, and players are obviously frustrated playing against this deck. And there's several variants too. But I think that the one with Oko is the superior one. It's like the ultimate version for Oko. It's got the artifacts for it. They can pump it out quickly. Yeah, every angle of that deck is difficult to get a handle of, and it's only become more difficult.
Yeah, and it's wild to me that Gilded Goose is actually just a better Birds of Paradise in this deck because it can utilize the food token so much better than if it were just a Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, what amazes me so much is that it just seems like you ban one broken artifact, like they
KCI.
Yeah. And another artifact deck just spawns, and then they feed it more.
Yeah, this is kind of something too that I've been not preaching, but I've just been saying quietly in the background is it's becoming the whole issue of Vintage, and I know not a lot of people follow or even care about Vintage, but what they're doing in Vintage is just banning everything around the shops, and instead of just banning shops, they just ban everything around it or limit it to one. Maybe it's just time to, cut the head off the Hydra and just ban Mox Opal. I don't necessarily want to get into that discussion too deep here, but
No, There was I'm not sure if it was on your cast, but I touched on this before about, it goes deeper than that. There's been discussions about how Pioneer feels refreshing, even with Oko in it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's less degenerate decks, and most of the degenerate stuff is coming from the era where, the broken artifacts came from, or where we had the ensnaring bridge pretty much format.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's what, 8th edition, I think it was. And you don't have the big mana decks. You don't have the Tron lands, So I feel like that's where the problem is in Modern. I feel like maybe if they just cut an entire set.
Just cut 8th edition.
Yeah, and maybe Pioneer is an experimentation for that, indirectly, where they want to see, okay, well, what if we start from this era, this set? Will it change, the direction of the format? Will it inspire new decks?
See, I don't think that they'll ever actually straight up like cut 8th edition out, as much as, us control mages would love it. But it's still, I think Pioneer
a lot of the broken mana issues come from that.
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree, but I just don't see them banning an entire set.
Right.
But yeah, today's episode is going to be less about Modern. I said last week that we would be talking more Pioneer on this cast. Now it's still a Modern podcast and now a Pioneer podcast, because let's be honest here, no one had any idea that Pioneer was going to just be dropped on the world of Magic. But with how it sets now, I think Modern is, we're going to have to, as control players, we're going to have to kind of put that on the back burner, because it's rough out here for us.
Yes, yeah, we were in a state where it seemed like control was in a good position in Modern.
Yeah.
And we had a nice run. I feel like since Doomswitch really pushed the archetype role, I felt like we were in good standing. We became a legitimate contender, and we had the bones of the deck established. And it just became like little tweaks here and there. But now, players are even like they're even veering off the Doom Switch list and trying like Terminus build again, which I think is actually like the wrong direction. It put up results, but I feel like it's more variance driven. I feel like you have to really hit your matchups. I just
very true.
I don't think that that deck is better than being, especially now that even like these Urza decks are playing more counters, and you have even Grixis Death Shadow on the rise again. I don't think Terminus is where you want to be. I still like to be on Verdict, but the bigger question is like, what are you doing? Because these decks are doing some broken things. They're hitting faster than you. They're controlling the game well too. They can grind or they can finish you off quickly. Like, what is control doing?
Right.
And if control can't control that, then I don't know where it's headed. But and that's why I feel like if we're going to talk about control in this episode, it's more, in my opinion, it being in flux is more direct reflection of Urza's dominance.
Absolutely.
And when I saw the top 8 and I saw all those Sismic lists, I'm like, holy crap! Like, this is like a 2, 3, 4 deck format now. It's like basically you got to be on those or you're.
Yeah, and so Grixis Death Shadow actually did win the tournament. John Holland did win with Grixis Death Shadow, but I mean, I'm looking at Simic Urza, Amulet Titan, also a terrible matchup for us. Thanks, Field of the Dead. Simic Urza mid-range, and then to round out the top 8 was Devoted Devastation, which is a close matchup, but, I think that Matt Clutter, the fella who won, or who top 8'd here, probably got some favorable matchups throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Grixis Death Shadow winning the tournament, I don't think is, because that's a pretty good matchup for Azorius Control. Actually, probably one of our best matchups.
Yes.
For that point. But I don't think that necessarily means people are going to start picking up Grixis Death Shadow. That deck is rather expensive, but also pretty hard to play. If you've ever tried to pilot that one, it's pretty difficult to pilot. So
Yes, no, for sure. I'm just looking at like the modern metagame right now, and it looks rough for blue white. Honestly, I mean, we've actually, I'm looking at it right now. We've completely fallen off.
yeah, it's so frustrating too, because like pre Oko, I felt like we were so close to being like the deck, and now it's just like,
we
well,
were
we're light years away.
we were easily like a top five contention as like the best decks in the format.
Absolutely.
And now we have dropped off like top 12.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And with that being said, this episode is going to be less about a reflection of Modern and more of a case study on what we can do in Pioneer to try and get better. And we will actually have our top 8 list of blue-white cards for control decks in Pioneer. That'll be That'll be a little bit later in the episode. But as Pioneer starts to take shape, we did just have the Pioneer Challenge, the very first ever Pioneer Challenge, and the first Pioneer 5.0 deck dump. Do you want to talk about the Pioneer Challenge?
Yeah, let's go through some of these lists here. So again, I was very surprised based on all the results players were having prior to this challenge with blue white. I was expecting to see a bit more of that, but
absolutely,
there's only one blue white list here, and it's an approach the Second Sun version.
Yeah. So, just to get this out here, first place, the tournament was won by Sultai mid-range / control. It was utilizing Oko, so still just a very excellent card, even in this format.
Mm-hmm.
It had some Courser Crewfix, Gilded Goose, of course, 4 Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Thoughtseize, Dig Through Time, Drown in the Lock, Fatal Push, Assassin's Trophies, and Abrupt Decays. I mean, this deck is very much, it feels like a control deck.
Yeah, it's pretty stock too. I mean, it's actually one of those decks where like you look at it, you feel like it's solved already. I mean, it's very clean. It's like what you said earlier. It's like the Jund of.
Oh yeah, Jund. It is the Jund of Pioneer. It looks like, and I just want to say it's pretty crazy because Vraska Golgari Queen is $25 now. It was $9 yesterday, which is gotta love Magic. Gotta love Magic. But yeah, let's talk about this list that top 32 here. I think it got 31st place, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to talk a little bit about it, it is an approach of the Second Sun list. So,
right. So I think the plan here is obvious. What they're trying to win through. But what I do like about this is that my concern with this version of blue white was being a bit too dirtily and trying to just win through that card. When I was talking to some players about it, it's like, okay, first of all, they were very clunky, very slow. But what I like about this list is that he's incorporating, other win conditions, not just that. And I feel like it's more of an experimental list, like you were saying earlier before the cast, with the 1 Dig Through Time, 1 Sphinx Revelation, kind of get the feel, And what I like about this list too is actually it looks pretty resilient to the discard decks. Playing, 2 Search for Asganta. It's running the Dig Through Time, the cantrips in Azorius Charm. So and obviously you've got the 3 Teferi Hero of Dominaria, and Narset. So I think this deck is actually pretty good against the discard.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if this is still in the early, establishment of the format. I don't know if this is the direction, but I do like that it's running basically like, hey, you know what? I'm taking you this far. If I've got Approach Second Sun, it's kind of like a win button, for the deck.
But there's a lot of cards in this list that I agree with. I love Absorb. I think Absorb's probably one of the best 3 mana counter spells. The like you alluded to earlier, the chop between Dig Through Time and Sphinx's Revelation, I think, is just probably a concession. Maybe this player didn't realize, like, couldn't figure out which one was better, so they're like, we'll play the odds here and play both of them. Do you tend to agree with that, or?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, one of the things that I like this list is doing. I mean, Teferi kind of is an exception to the curve because once you play the card, you can untap mana, which is nice. Yeah. But I think that this is nicer in terms of hitting land drops. It's playing the ops, which is nice too. So it's got a lot of cantrips between that and Azorius Charm. It's not overloading. Like, I'm always seeing lists with like 4 Sphinx's Revenant when I first started the first few lists.
That was that was all over the place on Twitter.
It's like, and this is just like basic deck building 101. Like, it's a new format, but still respect the curve, know. And I think that, like, this deck does that. I think it's got a nice balance of spells early, nice interaction. It has the removals too. And there's several cards in this list that are in our top 8.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that a little bit later. Our top 8 cards, but yeah, I mean, I love the fact that Elspeth Sun's Champion is potentially playable in this format. That's one of my favorite cards. It's just been, my foil's been collecting dust in my binder for like the last 2 years.
Right. I hate to cut you off, but let's also talk about how there is incidental life gain in this list from like various cards that you were saying earlier, and you can't, like, it's the reason why you play Absorb over Disallow.
Yeah,
like the life gain is important in this format, and I think having Absorb gain you life, Azorius Charm gain you life, you've got some, even like the tokens from Elspeth is huge. You know what I mean? It's a big swing.
Yeah, definitely.
You have the Sphinx Revelation gain you life, Elixir of Immortality. So there's various ways for this list to gain life, which is nice.
Yeah, and to touch on what you said, I believe Absorb is better than Disallow, because that's one thing I've been getting on Twitter and in real life is like, why are you playing Absorb over Disallow? I don't even think Disallow is my second choice for best 3 mana. We'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, Absorb, you have to gain life in this format. You have to, because they're coming at you quick and fast.
Right.
So one thing I don't necessarily agree with in this list is the ops. I personally would play Censor, because from my testing, and I've been playing a lot of Esper, I haven't played Blue-White yet, but it would still remain true. Your opponent is going to try and run you up the curve and land haymakers on pretty much every turn.
Right.
Censoring them out of nowhere is just so good. And then they start to play around it, and then it just slows them down, which obviously lets us try and catch up or assert our dominance on the board. Like, Censor is insane, and it serves a similar purpose as Opt. So I definitely like Censor over Opt in that spot.
Yeah, being able to cantrip with it is nice.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and this list is also running in the 75, talking counters, 3 Dovin's Veto, and I think that Dovin's Veto is honestly fantastic. It's a format overrun by cards like Thoughtseize and Planeswalkers. So I'm totally for having at least one in the main and a few in the 75 for the Veto. So this list has things it's doing right for sure. I just, I don't know if I want to go the approach route, but I think this is off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that this deck doesn't run any Torrential Gearhulks is interesting.
That's one of the cards I was thinking about. And another big creature for Blue-White going forward is going to be Dragonlord Jutai with Teferi. So we've got a couple, big top ends that can, win the game there. Especially Jutai is difficult to interact with in this format, so I like its positioning too.
Yeah, I agree. The interaction between Teferi and Absorb is pretty stone cold lock to see play in this format.
Oh, you mean Teferi and Dragonlord?
Or Dragonlord, yeah.
And someone actually had asked earlier on Twitter, like, what is the draw between these two? And really, the idea here is that you can cast your Jutai. It's 5 mana, so it's sorcery speed. You can cast it uncontested, which is big.
Yeah.
No counters, and there's several counters in this format right now. And so you can cast it without any problem, and then once you attack, they can't remove with anything like cast down, for example. Actually, I don't know if cast down can hit it, right? Because cast down is non-legendary.
Cast down is non-legendary. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's not really many removals that can hit it to begin with. But if they try to interact with it, they can't because Teferi. And then after it's tapped in your second main, you can actually bounce it with Teferi Time Raveler and recast it untapped. So that's big.
Oh yeah. I think that card is going to be very, very good.
And it's got an anticipate tacked onto its body.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Not too shabby at all. Yeah, so bug mid range or bug control, whatever you want to call it, won. But then to round out, I do want to kind of just say the deck list, or the deck names rather.
Yeah.
Blue Red Phoenix got second. Bug mid range, another bug mid range got third. Mono Blue Aggro, so a version of, I guess, Mono Blue Devotion, got fourth. 4-color Sihili, 4-color Sihili are 5th and 6th, and then Blue Red Phoenix and Blue Red Phoenix round out the top 8. A lot of Oko. There was Oko in the 4-color Sihilis, and obviously Oko in the bug decks.
That, and also you noticed in the top 8 the type of decks that are trying that are leading the way right now are the tempo based lists, the disruptive lists and the combo. Those are the ones that are ahead of the curve right now. And I've been seeing some talk that anything playing Thoughtseize right now in Oko,
absolutely,
that's the place to be in terms of the best fair deck right now.
Yeah. So one thing too that I'm seeing in this top 32 list, or rather not seeing, and is really interesting to me, is no Marvel. Not a single Marvel list in the top 32.
Yeah.
That was like the big boogeyman of the format coming into this weekend. And not a single Marvel list, so...
Right.
I stated, I don't think I said it on Twitter or even on the podcast, maybe I did, but I was kind of had the feeling that would probably just be like a bad block constructed deck.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how this challenge compares to the next. How it develops and how players adapt. But I think the verdict is pretty much out that Oko is very difficult to handle.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that we'll be seeing more cards that directly handle planeswalkers. So like black is a good place to be. You have Noxious Grasp. Then you also have the what's that blue one? The Aether
Gust.
Aether Gust, right? Just more ways, because almost every list you see here, aside from maybe the Phoenix one, are running walkers. The copycat combo is running 12 3-mana planeswalkers.
It's wild.
It's insane. So like walkers have immediately defined this format. And I think that walker interaction is going to be even more important going forward as long as they stay around. And this is what makes this list so good, is that it naturally plays ways to proactively deal with opposing walkers in Thoughtseize and Abrupt Decay.
Yep.
And Trophy. So it's got all the answers.
Absolutely. Which is kind of why I believe at the beginning of this format, at least, Esper is the place that, if you're going to play blue-white, Esper is the place to start. That's where I started. All my testing has been Esper. I actually just had I guess when this comes out, I will have had a video on Esper Control on my YouTube channel. So the deck is...
looking forward to that. I think this is definitely Esper's best format.
But yeah, that pretty much does it for... Unless you have anything else you want to say about the challenge, we can start kind of tackling some of these 5-0 lists.
I don't have much more to say except how it's interesting that you see, aside from like there not being any like Urza type deck here. It's interesting how the decks that are doing well in Pioneer initially sort of mirror like the decks that do well even in Modern.
Yeah.
The decks that are trying to go under and disrupt. Those are the ones that are doing well, and the Saheeli combo is very powerful in Modern too.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so it's just interesting to see some of the parallels between both formats right now.
Yeah, and then there's that random mono black vampires deck in 10th place, like playing four
Oh,
of the
yeah.
new Sorin.
Hey man, the deck looks annoying, so
Yeah. Oh,
Let's-
absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
I just wanted to point that out. And then there was some burn decks peppered in there, some red deck wins, of course.
yeah.
Bant spirits, mono white aggro, but nothing too crazy. I figured the red deck wins. That deck would be pretty solid and a good week 1 deck.
Hey, before we move on, let's talk about one last thing. Go to 13th place. The Jet it looks like Jeskai.
Jeskai Saheeli.
Yeah, what's nice about this list is that it's Jeskai Saheeli, but if you look at the spells, this is like pretty much a control deck. Like this is more like a control oriented list with the Saheeli combo incorporated.
Yeah.
So it's like Jeskai did a bit better than Blue White. Obviously it's got the combo in it too, but you see like Attention Sphere, Verdict. There's your 4 sensors.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's very strong. It has been for me at least.
Yeah, no, it's good. And hey, there's the Getting of the Trials in the sideboard. That's one card that I didn't see in the Blue White list. My friend Oren, who's actually ironically one of the pioneers of Saheeli in Modern, along with Jan. They've really pushed the archetype forward. He's been playing 2 Getting into the Trials in Blue White main in Pioneer, and really likes the way it pressures opposing walkers, including Oko. So alongside Teferi, you've got another creature threat that can be interacted with, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think, and you said it in the pre-show, but Getting the Trials, and they have a Jace Architect of Thought in the.
Yeah, and one planeswalker I didn't mention that he's on too, Aaron, is Gideon Allied Zendikar in the main, which is a nice way to also pressure opposing walkers.
Oh yeah. I'm a fan of a lot of walkers.
Yeah.
Which actually kind of brings us to the 5-0 list. The list that I wanted to point out in the 5-0, there's, I don't even know how to say the name, Antoni's 57437.
I'm going to take a look real quick.
So he's playing 8 total Planeswalkers, 2 Narset, 4 of each Teferi, and then 2 Jace Vryn's Prodigy, and 4 Gear Hulks.
Insane. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This deck seems sweet.
Oh, I like that you've been pretty much on point with some of these cards too. Like this guy's on 4 Absorb.
Oh yeah, Absorb. You need to. I mean, I'm going to keep saying this, but you need to gain life in this format.
Yeah. I'm also seeing a lot of these Blue White lists sharing some of the sideboard pieces too. Like I've been seeing a lot of Lyra, Disdainful Strokes, Rest in Peace. These seem to be some go-to sideboard cards too for Blue White in the sideboard.
Oh yeah. And then down the line, B flat, the 5-0 list. Got 3 Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, 4 Time Ravelers, and then 2 Jaces. So that's pretty. It seems like it's kind of stock. Is you're playing 2 Jace and 4 Time Ravelers, 2 Absorbs, and then he's playing. Our B flat's playing 4 Sphinx's Revelations. So they went the exact opposite side of the spectrum.
I'm sure I haven't even got top list yet.
This is the Esper list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we have Mick Winsal's list too here.
That's the hero version, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want to talk about that one.
That's a nice list, man. That's the one I shared in the community actually. I like the Russian clerics too.
Oh, I'm playing 4 in my Esper list
Yeah, that's really nice.
in the
There's the
board.
Aya that you mentioned earlier before the episode. Um, he's got the Teferi Time Raveler spell color interaction in this list too.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. 3 getting allies in the car. I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of pressure in this list, which is nice.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's a lot more proactive, and honestly, I think early on, all the best decks are proactive. You know, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
I think, especially right now, a bit more proactive and trying to answer things that you really don't know where it's going in the beginning of a format. You know, I think that being more proactive is the way to go. A little bit of interaction, a little bit of threats, removal. This list looks like it covers quite a big ground.
Absolutely. It's not quite blue-white control
No,
or Esper control, but it is adjacent. It is kind of the equivalent of Stoneblade if you compare it to a modern deck.
right.
Hero, though, is a card that I definitely like. It's one of the cards that, like, when I was still playing Standard, I was very interested in the Esper Hero list. That was what I was playing on Magic Arena. So I'm a fan of that card.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, even if it's just like, instant speed, spell color, make a 1/1. It's like it's nice.
Absolutely. There are a lot of
Lucky Dragon. There's the list that was shared earlier on Twitter today with Time Raveler and Dragon Lord Jutai.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is sort of like which actually it's been quite a bit of a discussion. Dragons being viable in Pioneer. Whether you're an Esper Dragons, this looks like it's a Jeskai Dragons list.
Yeah, Sligmar Scorn. That card's very, very good when you have a dragon in your hand.
Right, because it arguably becomes the best counter.
Oh yeah.
For 2 mana, but you need to have the condition met. So.
Yeah, and then Alarmobot 5/0 has a really sweet Bant Wilderness Reclamation list that he's actually utilizing it with Sphinx's Revelation. There's no Nexus of Fate, which is kind of interesting to me. I would throw probably one of those in there just for the I win button, right? Like, but
ooh, did you see Gendrick's list?
No.
Okay, it's TSP Gendrick. That's Gendrick on. He plays some Esper in Modern. Really, really great control player. They call him, I think, the best, like the Waffle Topo of his country.
Nice.
He's really good. And he looks like he's running Nexus of Fate. It looks like this is a blue-white. He's running 3 Hour of Revelation, 3 Supreme Verdict. It's literally all spells.
Nice. No Planeswalkers?
I don't know. None. This guy's running Azorius Charms, Dig Through Time, Disallow, Dolphin's Veto, Glimmer of Genius, Last Breath, 3 Sphinx's Rev, Quickens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he 5-0 with this one too.
The Nexus list, like the stock Nexus list, I guess, plays Quicken and plays Opt. So you get to do Dig Through Time very, very quick in that deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of white weenie decks here. There's a lot of burn or red deck wins, whatever you want to call it. A lot of different flavors of like the same kind of deck. There's a lot of Saheeli decks, obviously. Really, the fact that Marvel isn't here is surprising. It's surprising in that I think players thought that deck was going to be just like Stone Cold, one of the best. But my thought was always like, well, you're going to have to play like kind of all of these under the curve cards that make energy to do the thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was never too high on that deck, but it is still just week 1. Who knows? Maybe next week.
No, we're gonna see a lot of updates and changes.
Yeah.
So I just came across another list that's kind of wild.
Sure, go
Uh,
for it.
C-Man Rocks riding 13 Planeswalkers in the main. Two Elspeth Suns champion, two Gideon Alexander card, two Jace Arctic of Thought, three Narsets, two Teferi Hero of Dominaria, two Time Ravelers, and he's running two Heart of Kiran, which is basically their colonnade.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Attention Sphere, Search for Escanta, Declaration. It's a very clean list, actually. It's very focused, but it's running a ton of walkers.
Yeah, that's insane. You said 13?
Yeah, 13. Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah. But that's like we were saying earlier, though. I mean, Planeswalkers are huge in this format.
Yeah. I saw Mick Winsauce posted a screenshot on Twitter. He was playing Demonic Pact, the one that each turn you get a different thing, and then finally you like lose the game.
Yeah.
He was playing that with Detention Spheres, Teferi Time Ravelers, and Teferi. It's a 2-mana bounce, exile target permanent, then it re-enters the battlefield.
Right.
It's like you have to target your own spell. So Demonic Pact, fun fact about me, I love that card. That is one of my favorite cards. So I'm definitely going to be, maybe my next stream, I will play some Demonic Pact. That deck looks sweet.
and he just showed, too, that the card's gone up in price, too, since he's been playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it got bumped up.
Such is life.
And did we take a look at the last one I want to go over here? Andy C. Wilson's?
I don't believe so. Go for it.
Okay. So this one actually is more along the line of what you were alluding to earlier of some cards that were missing in the challenge list that are here. So you've got he's got 3 absorbs. He also runs Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah.
But he's only on 5 walkers, and there's also Cast Out, which is interesting. Nice way of dealing with Planeswalkers at instant speed.
Yeah. I don't hate that.
Yeah. And it cantrips, so.
Isn't that the one that says... No, I think that's Ixalan's Binding. The one that says you can't cast it anymore?
Yeah.
That's Ixalan's Binding, sure. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, this format has me very excited. This format is fresh. I think it's what we needed. At least I needed. Cause
yeah. So
does that make sense? Like,
it's like right in between standard and modern. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like it kind of satisfies both camps.
Absolutely. Basically, though, I think if we're playing Control, we need to be able to have our sweepers. That's very, very important.
Yes.
We need to be able to beat. We need to have a plan for the cat combo deck. I would personally suggest Teferi, or excuse me, not Teferi. I would suggest Jace, Architect of Thought.
Right.
That card is very good against that deck. As long as you win the die roll, I guess, because otherwise they just kill you a turn before you play it. But yeah, I don't know. I am excited about this format, and I'm excited we finally have some information, because that's, as Control players, we have to have the information and know what we're combating.
And that's just it. It's not that I'm not interested in Control in this format, but like I early on I was getting a lot of tags and DMs about Control lists in this format. It's like it's hard to build or gauge where you want to be with a blue-white list, especially in a format when you don't know what's out there. You don't know, what you're playing. And now with a bit more direction, you kind of start seeing the trends. What would be really nice, actually, is sort of like an MTG top 8, where we kind of like, compile the blue-white list and see what players are playing, and kind of go from there. Because, players are new to this format. We've seen these cards, but, based on what's being played, some cards might be slipping under the radar. And absolutely. I think that's nice to see as the blue-white lists develop, what players are playing most of, so we kind of have more direction and more concrete lists, and then we kind of go where modern, like hopefully there's a Doom Switch variant of a blue-white list in near.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I did reach out to Doom Switch, and I asked him if there's anything he's got brewing in his format. He says he hasn't played yet.
Okay.
He's also observing and reporting, and kind of gauging where things are. He does like the Sultai list, though. He loves where those lists are. So I'm not sure if he's going to be on blue white immediately, But that's his favorite archetype, so hopefully we'll see something from him too.
Absolutely. That would be awesome if he got into it and just started crushing.
Yeah.
With blue white, of course. Not.
Yes.
So yeah, the next thing that we wanted to talk about was just the top 10 cards from Pioneer for blue white.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So for the listeners, for you all, we compiled this list before we went on. Fran and I, kind of just got about 8. It's about 8. It's a little bit more than that, but there's some honorable mentions, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's the top 8 cards in Pioneer that are good control cards that you should be playing, or at least considering when sleeving your deck up. And we have the best card in the format. If you want to take that one away, we'll say that one real quick.
Yeah, it's go ahead. Actually,
yeah. So I believe Thoughtseize is the best card in this format. I know there's a lot of hype right now around Oko, and rightfully so. That card is very strong, but it loses to Thoughtseize. Like, you just strip it out of their hand. But aside from that, and especially in control decks, it allows you to gain so much knowledge and set up your play pattern for the rest of the game. It's so
Alex,
good.
I'm so happy that you just mentioned that.
What's that?
Something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I wasn't even planning on talking about it until you just mentioned it. But I think that we've seen Sean Magelgard in Modern really epitomize this concept of having knowledge as a control player, how important, how invaluable it is, how much virtual card advantage that gives you by just knowing the play patterns, knowing what your opponent's going to play, which improves the the equity of your own spells and when you're going to cast them and what you want to use them for, which a lot of time resource management is arguably one of the most important things as a control player. Right. So I think that having just access to 4 Thoughtseize gives you that kind of advantage, playing control. And he's been doing great with Thoughtseize in Modern, with counter spells, which is usually a non-bow, I guess you could say, for some control players. But for me, I've always seen, if you're playing Esper or Sultai or whatever, it's one of the things that makes Jund so great, right? It's once they see what you have, they look at their cards and say, oh, you know what? If I didn't know they had that, I would have blown my removal on this instead. Or I would have cast this a turn too early, So I think that it's a great card to help you turn the corner sooner. It's a great card to segue into your threats better, and to also utilize your removal and your counters more effectively.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the fact that it's in these bug decks only adds turn 1 Thoughtseize into. It's just so good. I can't stress how good it is.
In this format, I even think just going turn 1 Thoughtseizes into Jace Vryn's Prodigy is backbreaking. And it's like, oh shit, there goes the card advantage.
Yep. And that's my pick. And that's my pick for the best card in the format.
What's nice about these lists too is that I think they're one of the better lists to take advantage of Drown in the lock. Because you do have Vryn's Prodigy, you have you have the ability to bring it back. Because it's so flexible as it is already. Being able to play it again with Vryn's, it makes Vryn's a much better threat in this format than in Modern, simply because there's just not as much removal running around for it, or good removal at least. And having that kind of start to your play patterns is fantastic.
Absolutely.
And I think Bug is just already a solved archetype in this format.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So yeah, let's get into this top 8 real quick. The top 8 cards for blue-white control in Pioneer. First things first, you want to lead it off with the first one?
Yes, Teferi Time Raveler. Come on.
Yeah.
There's no question whatsoever. When I was first looking at some of the early lists and I saw players omitting Teferi Time Raveler, I'm like, are you guys playing? Yeah, are you guys playing the same format? Okay, this is not that set is in Pioneer.
Right. It just came out.
It should be in your list.
Absolutely.
But I think that players have a lot of purist control players, and I've talked about this in other casts too, have this like dream of just playing the clunkiest cards and just going draw go
every single turn.
Review for 20. Yeah, not
man.
gonna.
You're tugging at my heartstrings.
Yeah, but Teferi Time Raveler needs to be there first and foremost. It's the backbone of your deck, and it's proven that it's not just good against control decks; it's good against creature-based decks too.
Oh man!
So yeah, Teferi Time Raveler, in my opinion, is the best. And what's great is that if you want a more proactive plan in your blue-white list, you can play your Torrential Gearhawk or your Dragonlord Jutai or your Gideons and have an offensive plan, and Teferi will protect it. So it's great. Teferi's really good.
Teferi is that dude in this format for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If Oko is the stone cold best planeswalker, I mean Teferi's got to be a very close second in this format.
Yeah. Yes.
So moving on to number 2, we kind of cheated at number 2. We have Dig Through Time / Sphinx's Revelation. I think right now a lot of control players in a lot of the lists, and I think that it kind of reflects this point, people don't really know exactly what they want to do and don't know the splits. I tend to think that you're probably one or the other. That's just from testing Esper Control a bunch. Right. Granted, grand scheme of things, it is a small sample size. I think you want to be on one or the other. I tried 2 digs, 1 rev, and literally the only time I would ever want to cast rev was after I had already casted Dig Through Time. So there's something to be said about that. I would definitely lean to Dig Through Time being a little bit better in this format. But with that said, Sphinx's Revelation is no slouch.
No, and you know what? It does get better in a format where the top decks are Thoughtseize decks. You know what I mean? Like I understand that. And so I think that if you want to split, I don't think it's the worst thing. I do think that 2 digs plus 1 rev is a bit much. I don't think it's necessary. But I think that if you want to play both, just like the challenge list, I think 1/1 right now is fine until things get more settled.
Yeah, definitely tend to agree with that. Because right now it's still the format's so new and it's still it's in flux big time. So yeah. So you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah. So the next one actually is another card that's very good against discard and attrition type decks, and that's Search for Azcanta.
Yeah, and it's also very good with Dig Through Time.
Yeah.
There's kind of that weird tension that if you dig away all of your cards in your graveyard, then you can't flip your Azcanta. But on the flip side of it, Azcanta feeds your Dig Through Time so well. So well.
And also there's in blue-white in Pioneer, there are less important creatures to be playing in the main. I mean, Orin is playing Razumgar in the main. I don't know if he's playing Torrential Gearhawk, like 2 or 3 creatures, not much. So, but there's a lot of planeswalkers and there's spells, and I think that it really makes great use of Search for Azcanta. And also, and word, it's gonna bait an or a trophy that would otherwise go to your planeswalker, which is it'll ramp you or it protect your walker. So I think that it's really good here. It's okay in Modern, but I think it's in Pioneer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. In Modern, it's kind of weird too because you want to play things like Narset, and Narset really doesn't play very well with Azcanta. Where in this format, you really get you are really incentivized to play Azcanta to feed your Dig Through Time, right? Like, so moving on though, we got Supreme Verdict. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. It is the best Wrath.
Exactly, and honestly, with in terms of like curve is concerned, because that's something you don't want to overlook just because of the new format. I think that because there's no cryptic commands in this format, you can get away with playing, Supreme Verdict, and also there's no Jace Divine Sculptor.
Yep.
You're not going to be playing 2 or 3 archetype spots. So the fourth spot is less cluttered. Um,
Absolutely.
you can definitely play the full set if you really want. I mean, it's like still a creature oriented format. You can get away with 3 to 4 verdict.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think 4 or 3 is probably where you want to be, depending upon the configuration of your list.
Right.
So moving on down the line, we got what we consider to be the 3 best counter spells for blue white. We have Censor, Absorb, and Dovin's Veto.
I think we may have skipped one though.
Yeah, there is one. There is one. You want to say it?
Yeah, well, it's a fairy hero of Dominaria, but that's given. I mean, I think that the card. There's no Jace
Oh,
here.
sure. I thought you meant yeah.
Yeah, we went from verdict to the pound.
Yeah.
There was more, and it was the fairy hero of Dominaria. So, especially with no Jason in this format, even in Modern for a good while, Teferi was the leading blue-white planeswalker. And in Pioneer, it's definitely no slouch. It's a win condition. It's a self-contained win condition. And if you don't want to deal with the BS that is Oko, we can get this card in the field and then start pressuring. Closing them out that way is nice. So I do think that Teferi is, one of the most important planeswalkers. I would say you can easily get away with playing 2 here in this format.
There was even that 5-0 list that played 4, which I think is a bit excessive, but
it's excessive. But I like minimum 2.
Yeah.
In this format.
Yeah, in strictly blue white with no black or red or green. Right. I definitely like bare minimum 2.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then moving on down the line, we got, of course, like I just said, Censor, Absorb, and Veto. So the reasons I've been getting questions on why I'm playing Absorb. Absorb is the best 3-mana counterspell in this format because it gains life. Okay, I think people are like, oh well, what about Disallow? Disallow is nice, but you rarely use that second ability of countering, of stifling them. And the life gain has been so good. It's just
it's important. We've seen several lists already playing 2 to 4.
Yeah, you cannot in this format, in my opinion, be playing a control deck and just expect to win with no life gain and just win with your 20 life. You have to have some kind of life gain, and I think Absorb is the best way to go about because it's a card. The initial effect is already something that we want to be doing. We want to be countering things. So gaining 3 life is excellent. And then in terms of Censor, I really believe that Censor's probably better than Opt in most scenarios, just because having that upside of being able to run them up the curve and countering their things is just excellent. And of course you can cycle it, which acts as a pseudo Opt.
Yeah, no, I agree here. And we also don't have Snap in this format, so it's not like going Snap Opt.
Yeah, there's none of that.
So yeah, no, I like Censor. I think you pretty much. Another honorable mention that I have seen, I think it's reasonable too, is Syncopate.
Syncopate. Okay, yeah, that's one I've been seeing too, and something I hadn't even really. I considered it, but hadn't tried yet. So I could definitely see where it would be good. And then of course Dovin's Veto.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's just like if
with no force here. Yeah. I'm going to say that like even in Modern before Force, Dovin was incredibly important.
Yeah.
And with this format having so many planeswalkers and some powerful spells, I'd say that Dovin's Veto is minimum. I'm going to say 3 in the 75, and that's how good it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I tend to agree with that. 3 seems like a good number. Of course, the best counterspell in the format, in almost any format now, is Veil of Summer, which is disgusting.
Why is green getting so many good things, huh?
Why is green getting a 1-mana cryptic command? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so moving on down the line, if you want to talk about these creatures, because you're a big fan. You're a big fan of one of them. Yes.
So I like the Torrential Gearhulk. I do. it had its time in Modern at one point.
Yeah, a little bit.
And yeah, and there's enough here, especially if you're playing more instant speed spells, that Torrential Gearhulk can potentially be your big snapcaster in this format. That can also win, and it's a huge body, very difficult to deal with.
And let me tell you, hitting a dig through time with Gearhulk. Literally, when Gearhulk was printed, I was like, "Damn! I wish that dig through time was legal in Modern now." And now, let me tell you, the first time I did it, oh boy, it was excellent. But
no, Torrential Gearhulk is in my opinion the go-to number one best finisher creature for blue white.
Yeah.
And then right next to it is Dragon Lord Ojutai.
Yeah.
Now Dragon Lord Ojutai doesn't have flash, but it does have a couple things that I'd say can solidify it as, if you even want to run it alongside Torrential Gearhulk. I can't fault you on that.
I could see that.
Yeah, as like a curve topper, go 5 and 6.
Man,
so
Dragon Lord 1-2 punch right there.
Beautiful, yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot for decks to handle. I think Dragon Lord Jutai's flying is relevant, but also having hexproof when it resolves makes it powerhouse against Oko. Makes it a powerhouse against opposing time ravelers. They can't interact with your Dragon Lord Jutai, and 5 damage is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's gonna knock down Oko significantly, and they can't do anything about it. And then what's nice about the interaction with the fairy is, like I said earlier, you can cast it uncontested. You can then, on your second phase after attacking, not only are you playing an anticipate off its ability now, since you're most likely going to connect, and you're going to dig, but you also have the ability now to bounce it with your own Time Raveler, cast it again, and he's got hexproof again. So it makes it very difficult unless they have a sweeper. And these decks that are, like the Phoenixes and the Bugless, they're not playing sweepers for Ojutai. They have spot removal. And like Abrupt Decay doesn't do anything to it. They have Assassin's Trophy. Fatal Push, it doesn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to interact with Ojutai. And even in Modern, it's borderline like just there as being a solid enough finisher to play in Modern, and in this format,
it's for sure,
it's like the format to be playing it. And if you're playing like Sligbor's Scorn, if you're playing like multiple Jutai, at least 2, I would consider playing Scorns in your list too. So it's a good package there. But yeah, I think Ojutai is the real deal in this format, and I'm expecting to see more of it, just like we saw in the 5-0 dump. Jeskai running 3 to Teferi and 2 Ojutai. So
they were playing Niv Mizzet Perun too. That card's slept on right now, I think, in this format as well. Just because people are looking, myself included, just exploring Esper more than Jeskai. But I saw that Esper Dragon or that Jeskai Dragons deck, and that looks. I want to try that. It looks fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's even in Modern. But with Ojutai, if you're untapped and you're doing a couple swings, it's pretty much a good game.
Absolutely.
The card just wins. I think it's a card that you really want to consider if you want a finisher. And it's not, we didn't list them here, but I would put it in the same category. If you want other good, strong powerhouses for blue white right now in terms of actually attacking your opponent's life total, definitely getting into the trials, getting the allies in the car, and Lyra Dawnbringer in the sideboard. These are all really good cards to still be playing in blue white.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree. And then the last two rather. They're 2 of the best removal spells for blue and blue white. We got Detention Sphere and Azorius Charm, which Azorius Charm has been popping up a lot more in this deck dump and also in the challenge than I thought it would. But Detention Sphere is really like our only way, if you're playing strict blue-white, to deal with Planeswalkers once they've resolved. There's no Cryptic Command to bounce it. Obviously, you can bounce it with Teferi, but who knows what the board state's going to look like by the time Teferi lands. So D-Sphere is a great, clean answer to things that we can't handle usually.
Right. I do want to give an honorable mention though to Seal Away. I know this is not modern. Don't have the good white removal, but Seal Away does have flash, which is nice.
Yeah.
And it does have more value with fairy because it's an enchantment, so you can bounce it and hit another creature if you wanted, which is nice. So I don't think it's bad. I think we've seen in multiple lists now at least 2 copies. And the other one I wanted to mention, you mentioned it earlier, was Declaration of Stone.
Yes.
Now it's not. I mean, it has seen some fringe play in Modern, but again, every card that is like a 2 in Modern is like a. That's the way I look at it. Not in terms of how many copies, but like in value, quality, power. Power level.
Yeah.
So Declaration of Stone is probably like 0.5 or so in Modern, or 2, but it could probably be like 3 or so in Pioneer.
Yeah, and it combos nice with Teferi Time Raveler too, because giving it instant speed is just very good. It actually turns it into a playable Magic card, in my opinion.
Right. And the last one too I want to mention was Last Breath.
Yeah, so that's one I've been seeing in. Actually, there's a local player in St. Louis who like showed me his deck, and I'm like, oh, Last Breath. That's actually like one thing I considered as well.
Like, think about it. Like in against Sultai, right? Last Breath actually is a clean answer to Jace. It's a clean answer to Gilded Goose. It is a clean answer to pretty much every creature. And it only costs 2 minutes. Instant speed into Exiles, which is relevant too.
Tireless Tracker as well before the counters start coming.
Hey, right. So I think Last Breath, 1 or 2 copies is totally reasonable.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's very good. One card we didn't put on here that you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, they're crazy. They have no idea what they're talking about, is Jace Vryn's Prodigy. We talked about that, and we actually had a pretty good discussion about whether we should put it on or not. We came to the conclusion that Esper is a little bit more better suited to play that card, so that is why that card is not on here.
Sorry, I was looking up something, and there's even more merit for Last Breath. Sorry to go back on Last Breath, but like it's crazy in this format because I just realized that Last Breath also hits another really popular card that we've seen multiple copies of these lists in the challenge. Last Breath, let me see. Oh no, okay. Well, Last Breath is going to hit several creatures, but it does not hit Arc Lightning.
3/2, right?
Yeah, it's a 3/2. See, our Last Breath hits the power.
Power, yep, not the toughness. Yep.
Yeah, actually, so I'm going to take that back, actually. It looks like, oh no, less. Okay, yeah, so it does hit Vryn's Prodigy. It does hit a lot of creatures, but it does not hit.
Oh, wow, it doesn't hit Tireless Tracker either. Okay.
No, because it's a 3 power. But you know what? That's actually one of the arguments against the card. There were some players saying, well, yeah, it's good, but there's a lot of 3 power in the format too. But hey, against the best deck in the format right now that won the challenge, it does work.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's merit for it. And then Azorius Charm, obviously, I believe that Azorius Charm is like very good choice because every mode is reasonable. Putting time walking your opponent, putting the creature back on top, drawing a card, obviously excellent for us. And then even the lifelink late game is just so good. If you hit them with a Gear Hulk in game 5 life, I would be very surprised if you lost that game.
It's good. It's really good.
So yeah, but moving on to was there anything else you wanted to say about that list?
Something that was being played early on, and I didn't see any of these lists actually, and it's probably because they're also running a ton of Planeswalkers, is Planar Cleansing. Yeah,
that's something that I was like, I'm throwing a deck together, just like no Planeswalker, like blue-white, or like even Urza's Ruinous Blast, so you could play your Planeswalkers.
Or Hour of Devastation. I think
Hour of Revelation.
Revelation, yeah. Well, that one also, but then Genrix list was playing no permanents whatsoever. So,
That's awesome. I love that.
yeah.
Personally, dirtle away.
Well, that's his style. He always says the less win conditions, the better, and
Oh,
I cannot get behind that the
I
concept
can.
at all.
Stamp of
I can't wrap
approval
my head
from
around
me. Stamp of approval. Oh, that's awesome. But so yeah, that's definitely one that I want to look into. I just want to play like the dirtiest. Maybe even have just like a bottle, like Elixir of Immortality be my win condition, or Teferi just tucking itself forever be the win conditions. I think that would be so sick.
What this format is that like there are certain strategies that like modern players, control or act or whatever, have been like desiring to play,
Yeah.
and they can't do it in modern because there's just so much power in other decks. That's
Yeah.
like,
If
but
you
this format does give you the opportunity to do some more things than standard, while basically kind of filling that void that you have in modern. You just can't pull it off. So you could play your little Sphinx Rev in Elixir, and you're fine.
yeah. Oh man. Okay, so yeah, the next segment though is kind of, well, not for you. Actually, every time you've been on, we've had kind of a question and answer segment. But this is going to be on every episode from now on. It's from our Discord, from the Control Freak Discord. It's going to be questions, and the way that you can join that Discord is by becoming a patron at the $3 level. So all these are from the Discord, and shout out to all those folks that ask questions. Definitely don't have time to get into every single one of these, but I do want to have two that I wanted to talk about and have a chat with you.
Yeah.
So what is the metagame gauntlet currently in Modern is one of them. I guess like 3 or 4 decks that you just have to be good against.
Okay, so although Grixis Death Shadow won,
right?
I'm not going to put that in there. I don't think you need, concern about that deck. I think that it's just one of the better fair decks in the format. It has staying power. It's always it's a good deck, but I wouldn't warp your deck to beat it. I think the most important ones by far right now is Burn. You have to respect Burn.
You have to respect Burn.
Yeah, I think Burn is one of the ways that's kind of policing big mana decks, and I think it can get under Urza. So I think you're going to see Burn, and I think that Burn's a deck you want to respect. Obviously, the Urza variant.
Yeah.
That's another one to beat. The next one, in my opinion, is Eldrazi Tron.
E-Tron, okay.
Yeah,
that's one I wouldn't have put in there, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Eldrazi Tron. I guess you could put Eldrazi Tron and Tron together. I guess if you want to cheat, I think the Tron. Let's put the Trons. You want to?
I'll sign off on that one then.
So burn the Earth decks, the Trons, and the last one, in my opinion, that you really really want to respect is the big mana, and I'm gonna put them together too.
Titan. Yeah, Titan. That deck is just a headache. It used to be you just path their big Titan, at least with Amulet, and then you couldn't lose. Now with Field of the Dead, it makes the matchup abysmal. It's really not good anymore.
Right, and I'm gonna put like Jun in the same realm as like Grixis Shadow as being like a really good deck that you're gonna you respect, but it's not like Burn in the sense where like Burn Burn is like it's a chess match. I mean, so is Jun, but like Burn, it has come to the point where like it's got so good that you need to really. It's top 4 or 5 best deck format, and I think that it plays on a more aggressive action than Jun. So
absolutely.
I think historically Control has had issues with Burn than Jun game 1. Players, I think Doomswitch is still playing Timely in the main. But,
oh, yeah. I 100% am still playing Timely in the main. But granted, I play Paper quite a bit, and Yeah, St. Louis meta is riddled with burn. So I've been preaching that song since day one of the podcast.
Yeah, and let me tell you, because Amulet, Titan Shift, the Urzas, Bronze are all here. Burn isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. So cool. Yeah. So we
Burn,
got
Burn, Urzas, the Tron, and the Titan. Those are like the most important ones. And then obviously respect the yard. Dredge is one of those decks that shows up typically in the top 8 or top 15. So you want to respect Dredge, you want to respect Jund, but the ones to beat for sure are those.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't leave home without at least 2 rest in peace. You should probably play 3.
That's Doomswitch. Doomswitch says he lives by the philosophy of starting your cyborg with 3 rest in peace. 12 other cards.
Nice. Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, so the other one, this one we kind of already touched on, so I'm not really going to go for it because what should control look like in Pioneer? That's basically what this entire episode was about, so don't really need to get on that one. Oko in control decks, I think. What do you think? I think there's definitely an argument for a Bant control deck in Pioneer.
That's coming, by the
Yeah.
way. Article's coming out soon.
Yeah, you actually have an art. Yeah, that's right. You have an article coming out. Bant
Face-
control, face-to-face games. Yeah.
I actually interviewed Austin Bursavich, the GP winner of Dallas.
Oh yeah,
and
that's awesome.
He 5-0'd with a Bant control list. It was based on Mick Winsauce's 5-0 list. And immediately 5-0 as soon as he put that together. And so I interviewed him, and yeah, it's an interesting deck. It's doing some things on a different axis than Blue Eye Control. Having access to both Teferi and Oko is awesome. So yeah, I think that it's definitely a deck. I think it's still in the early stages, but I think that Band Control can be something viable simply because Oko exists.
Yeah, no, I agree. And maybe it doesn't look necessarily like, maybe there's Gilded Gooses in there, but I definitely think that it's there for the taking.
Right.
And then the last one is Drown in the Lock good enough for Pioneer? I think that question has already been answered just because of the challenge and some of the 5-0 lists. Yes, it kind of doesn't play well because there aren't fetches, but in general, and you tell me if you agree or not, I believe that it is, in fact, good enough because as the game goes on, it progressively just gets better and better.
Right. So it scales.
Yeah.
It gets better and better as the game goes on. And, aside from cat combo, I think that there's it's a grindy. It's gonna go. It's gonna have more value as the game goes on, like you said. Is it a 4 of? No. Is it a 3 of? No.
Yeah.
It's a 1 to 2 of that I think is reasonable in both Esper, or Sultai, or the blue blacklist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fine. Magic graveyards fill up, so I think that you're gonna. It doesn't have a good interaction, obviously, if you're playing Rest in Peace in your list. But we've seen other Nambos that have tension that have been played together, like Snapcast Mage and Rest in Peace. So
yeah,
I think
right.
I think it's still fine enough that if you expect the game to go a little long, I think it gives you enough flexibility where it's AOC play.
Absolutely. So yeah, and that was the new segment here. We're just answering questions from all of the patrons. Appreciate everybody who asked questions in the Discord. And again, if you do want to be able to have access to the questions on every single episode, becoming a patron at the $3 level, that's all you got to do. But yeah, Francesco, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate our talks are always awesome. We always spend about an hour just chatting before the actual record button gets hit. So it's always nice talking to you and chatting Magic.
And I'm sorry that it seemed a bit discouraging from the blue-white side and in Modern right now.
Yeah.
But I will leave on a positive note. If you want to continue playing blue-white control in Modern, keep your eyes on Doom Switch's updates. His Patreon's awesome. He's
Yeah.
he's still yielding results with the list, and he's also on Stoneblade. He's doing well. I mean, some players just gifted, and he's one of them.
Yeah, right.
But other players who have signed up to his Patreon have also reported success with his blue white control list, and he's a player who doesn't make dramatic changes. So what you see or you've seen from him, he does minimal revisions. He's very conservative in that respect, but it's because his lists have been tried and true, and don't really have to change too much, right? And that's why I think sometimes we get carried away. We see new decks. It's like we overhaul what's worked, or fix what's not broken. So Doom Switch's list is still very good. I would just, based on your metagame, I would just tweak based on that. But I think his list is a good one, and also Skura's list for blue white is still very good. So if you want to continue playing blue white control and modern, look to those. I will also have mine in my upcoming Patreon that you'll see. And also, if you want to play Stoneblade, it's viable. But I do still recommend the Queller version for blue white. And I think that both Esper and Bant have some nice play to them too. In fact, one of my friends went to an event and he top 8 with an Esper list that him and I both worked on. So Esper Stoneblade is a nice one also, but it needs to be built sort of like Cerrone was saying. It has to be built correctly to reflect the metagame. So one of the things he was missing was disdainful strokes. And I told him, look, you're going to see Titan shifts. You're going to see amulets. You're going to see Trons. And
Absolutely.
Actually, he put 2 strokes, and they came in handy in the sideboard. So, one of the things about that list is it plays Thoughtseizes, it plays Discard, but it's a little soft to the big mana decks. So you still want to account for them in the sideboard. So, yeah, I think Stoneblade lists are fine. They're not broken. They're not, Stoneforge is just fine in modern. But I think that if you're going to play a Stoneforge list, make it a list where you're playing more than just Stoneforge and Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get torn apart. And then as far as control, Doom Switches, Skuras, and my upcoming list that I'm going to share, look forward to that. So it's not dead. Control isn't dead in modern. It just needs to adapt again.
Absolutely, man. Good stuff as always, Neo. I appreciate the talk. Where can people find you on the internet?
Okay, so we have my Facebook community, which has now grown to 7.3 plus thousand members,
and I'm one of them.
One of them. That's the largest community online dedicated to any archetype in Magic. And we have now the Pioneer community for Blue-White X control, combo, and mid-range. That was the fastest growing community that I've had.
Oh, dude, it exploded. There was like 2,000 members almost in 24 hours or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I'm up to, I think, I'm almost there. It's 1 point, I think close to 1.4.
Okay.
But it was 1,000 members in less than 24 hours. So that was
wild, dude. That's wild.
Yeah. So, and like I said, some fun stuff, insightful, informative, valuable stuff coming from my Patreon soon. I've been kind of quiet on Twitter, and also Facebook community, but it's because I've been doing my own testing and a lot of observing and analyzing, and I put together some good content for the Patreon that'll be coming out. I'm going to give it a 2-week mark.
Awesome.
In 2 weeks, and sometime in November.
2 weeks from when this airs, or 2 weeks from when we're recording it?
Two weeks from today.
Okay, so 1 week.
Sometime in November you'll have some new stuff in the Patreon. So, but yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, where to find me. I'm on Twitter at Spikes_Neo.
Absolutely.
Book a session. I'm also with Spikes Academy. Links in my my profile, so you can find me there as well.
Awesome, good stuff, man. And to the viewers and listeners, thanks for listening or watching to the 23rd episode of the Control Freak Podcast. Again, proudly sponsored by Team SolitaryPro. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're taking in this content. And if you have a couple extra bucks and want to throw it at a content creator, I do have a Patreon. The links will be below. And I would definitely appreciate it if you would throw some bucks at me. But
Yeah, and he has some sick shirts too. So
yeah, the shirts are getting ordered next Friday, so very excited. I'll be those will be $25, and yeah, it's be good stuff. That's shipped too, so $25 ship, not too bad for
no,
a nice
fantastic.
T-shirt.
You've been doing awesome, man. Real proud of you.
I appreciate it. I've definitely been putting a lot of time and effort into the podcast, and check me out on YouTube, of course. Les Alex there. And Twitch as well. I've been streaming a little bit more. Pretty laid back streams, no like major testing. I don't like doing major testing during streams. You get too distracted, and
Yeah,
you get too distracted.
That's another thing too. I will be on MTGO soon.
Oh, awesome!
My dear friend Alex here is going to run me through so
Yes.
I can get informated quickly. Yeah, so you'll see some content from there too. But I don't plan on streaming. It's not my thing. I'm very focused that when I play, I'm
Locked in.
I'm stone cold serious focused. That's the way I am, and I'm gonna have a hard time. And not gonna say that I won't have videos uploaded
Sure.
where I talk over my plays, but no, I'm not gonna be streaming.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Big difference between you focusing and talking through your plays and having, Johnny 1000 PT top eights telling you the correct play.
Not happening. Not happening. But hey, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm gonna head out. But,
Absolutely. And as always, Magic players, have a great night and be kind to one another.
Absolutely.